All right, the Property Prequel, be in the know before you buy. Nathan, how are you, mate?
Srams, I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, but I'm a little bit upset as well. It's it's a bit bittersweet, right? It's this is actually our last ever episode in this facility, in this studio. So, mate, the growth we've had within the short time, mate, it's been epic, right? It's been really surreal, and also we're both very grateful. We're just talking off air all about it, but mate, bigger and better things coming.
It's the last episode, bigger and better things to come. Mate, it's been awesome. It's been basically 6 months now, hasn't it, in here, and some good times, which we'll probably reflect on today a little bit, and bigger and better things to come, bigger studio, you know. Mate, we've been training hard. We're getting bigger. You got to accommodate more space.
Mate, well, it's one of those ones. You start off as a rookie, you know, and you're playing some good week in, week out footy, and then the clubs start knocking on the door, right? And then mate, it starts to get a bit more real. So really fortunate. We're about to move into a brand new studio, which is really exciting for all of our brand new guests that will be coming onto the Property Prequel. We've also got some things in talks with different sponsorship partnerships and things like that. So it's this has been an epic journey, and the whole purpose of this podcast has been to add value, I guess, to the buyers and the buyer community, and it's really resonated well, obviously. So today's ep is just going to be around, I guess, getting to know each other a bit more. I think it'll be great. We always get a few messages around our journey and whatnot. Secondly, just reflection on the past 6 months as we expand and go into our new studio. And then also what's planned for the future and how people can stay connected and also support the podcast that's adding so much value. So, exciting times, mate. Very exciting times.
It is indeed. And I guess on behalf of both of us, just want to thank everyone that's downloaded, everyone that's subscribed and listened and sent through messages. You know, you and I both get a number of messages after each episode, which is greatly appreciated. I was going to say good, bad or ugly, but they're generally all pretty good, you know. And obviously some suggestions around who we could potentially get on, which we do appreciate because obviously we're both pretty busy day to day, week to week. So as you said, mate, the next 6 months as far as guests goes look pretty good. A good different sort of variety of people.
Different variety,
females, males, local business owners that have got property. Some guys with more of a property influence that do a few little things on the side that are sort of interesting. So, I think we're sort of hitting the mark. Well, that's the feedback. And, I guess just on behalf of both of us, just thanks to everyone thus far.
Yeah, for sure. It's been amazing to be able to support the community in some way and offer some value. And, if you are someone who knows someone or you're thinking you want to get in this space, or there's any topics, there's any guests, or there's anyone in particular you'd like to get on the show, definitely just reach out. It's we're all ears and eyes and listening who the community wants, so we're all for that. And if you're kind enough to leave a review for any value we're adding, we do look into that as well, so we do appreciate it. But I thought it'd be cool to just start off with Crossy for I guess our last step in here onto our new studio, mate. What's been your sort of favourite ep to date, or has there been any that's really resonated with you or you found really interesting over the past sort of few months over all the guests we've had?
Yeah, great question, because we've had a good array already, haven't we? Sammy Watson was a good one, the town planner.
That's interesting, hey?
Really interesting, and I guess probably a little bit biased from my point of view, given that you and I both live at Palm Beach and there's a lot of talk and conjecture around the light rail there. And Sammy shared some great insight into approvals and what's allowed, what's not allowed under the current town plan, things like impact accessible DAs or code accessibles and things that are going to affect the greater Gold Coast community. So I thought that was a good one. The Liz Cantor one, early days, I think maybe a second or third episode was good. And we had a lot of good feedback from females around, you know, Liz is a super busy mum. I think you made the mention, you turn the telly on and you see her all the time, whether it's coast to coast or, you know, the Powerball or the news, you know, whatever it is. So, mate, it's been interesting, and there's a lot of different sort of stories out there, isn't there, around property? But, there are probably a couple that stand out. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, every guest we've had on has added so much value in certain ways. I guess I really like the ones where it's just a story I never, thought I'd hear, or I never thought I'd hear. And then there's a couple that stand out. One of them was Srama Nathan Cross. really imagine. Like, I remember Juliana Gomez. She's one of the top performing agents here on the coast. Crazy story. Like, couldn't speak English or anything. Wild, absolutely wild. And then I remember like one of our first actually was Ryan James. Obviously, he's got a great NRL career. He's coming on the back end of his career. But who would have thought he's been investing in a property and doing those sorts of deals since a young age? He's still quite young. So that was a really interesting ep to see how he's leveraging being an athlete and using property as a vehicle. But yeah, like even the couples we've had a few there, right? Lisa and the crew there, and styled by Louis, and then obviously Matt and Emma, Render X, and obviously that sold for an absolute ridiculous price as well. So just getting an insight into just everyday people having a crack, learning the lessons and whatnot as well. So yeah, it was an interesting array of people.
Definitely. One that stood out actually now that I think about it in regards to feedback that I've had about that episode or takeaways from the episode that relate to business week after week it gets referred to was Troy Dowkers.
Troy's one, yeah.
Yeah, Dowkes had some absolute gold. Obviously, he's talking about his own real estate EBU within a business and brand like Koloshi, but even guys that I train with or you see down at Palm Beach or Currumbin having a coffee that have related it to their own business about the daily habits, which I know you're massive on, and your rituals and things to do in business. That was huge, wasn't it? Massive.
And I know we do get a lot of real estate agents and buyers agents listen in. So that was obviously a really relatable one. And yeah, had some good feedback the other week with the commercial boys as well. Just really interesting topic. It's on top of everyone's mind. So yeah, you look across all the guests, they all offer. I mean, Jade Pizzette was a cracker. It was one of our most downloaded.
Yeah, Pezzy wasn't
he?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's really crazy to think that all these people who have got such influence on the Gold Coast and Brisbane and Queensland and I guess nationally, real estate sector in helping buyers have all added that value. So as I said, if there is anyone you think of, definitely let us know because we've got a fair guest list line up for the bottom half, but there's still some spots. So yeah, if you're keen to jump on or you know anyone, definitely let us know. But mate, what about yourself? I thought it'd be good to just touch on quickly where did I guess for ourselves, like how did we end up in this wild industry? I guess I know your sort of career's gone a bit everywhere, and you're so diverse with what you've done. How did you get? I know your old man. He was in real estate, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I got started in the property game in real estate. I was playing footy, as you know, at Parramatta Eels in Sydney, and had the first couple of years down there were outstanding. You know, we lost a grand final in the Jersey Fleet competition. Then the following year won what is now the New South Wales Cup competition.
Okay.
So my first 2 years there were outstanding. I remember 99 playing for Parramatta in front of 100,000 people at ANZ Stadium, you know, or back then it was called Stadium Australia. Yeah. That was the same year that the first grade was the Melbourne Storm St George Illawarra grand final.
Yeah. One of the best games of all time. Yeah.
One of the controversial ones. So I think, mate, when we kicked off there was 47,000 people, and when we finished there was 102,000 at the end of it. It was just phenomenal. So you look back over your life and you go, what an experience. And then the next couple of years I was on contract at Parramatta. I hardly took the field. I had a heap of injuries and I just couldn't get going. Every time I was about to come back, something else would happen. And it actually made me start to think about, all right, I'm only 21, 22, but geez, this footy caper, like it's pretty, it can be pretty up and down. It can come really quick and then go really quick. And I remember Dad saying to me at the time, he had a partnership, an LJ Hooker franchise in Byron Bay.
Okay.
And he said, mate, what are you thinking? And I said, I'm sort of homesick, you know. I was sort of growing up in Byron Bay, living in the western suburbs of Parramatta in Sydney, a long way from the beach. It was just, mate, it was killing me. I just hated it, to be frank. So Dad said, well, why don't you start having to think about, you know, why don't you do your real estate license, get something behind you? Because when I first signed with Parra, I got into uni to do economics at Western Sydney.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez. But Couldn't picture you sitting in an economics classroom.
Mate, I loved economics and I still do. It sort of relates to what we do now. But just the study and all that, as you know me, mate, hate study. So it was never going to happen. But anyway, so I won't bore the listeners with all that stuff. But Dad encouraged me to, why don't you get your real estate license? So I did that while I was injured. My third year at Para. Got my full license, and then the more I did it, the more I loved it. I nearly got into real estate while I was still in Sydney, in Parramatta. A couple of the sponsors of the Parramatta Reels were obviously real estate agents. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, you know what, I'm a bit done with footy. Done at that high level. So I signed with the Burleigh Bears in the Queensland Cup up here and said, I'm going to move back. And Dad bought LJ Hooker at Tugun.
Really?
So basically, that's how I...
Went on Golden... it was on Golden 4A.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So he sort of started that in 2002, and I signed with Burleigh in 2002 and played for Burleigh, and then sort of cut my teeth in property there. And I've had a bit of a journey ever since then, which we can sort of talk about later. But, mate, that's effectively how I got started in the property or real estate industry.
So pretty much influence from your old man. And
definitely. Yeah. If you talk about your biggest influences in your life, like he was undoubtedly mine.
Yeah.
But what about yourself, mate? So I know, like, obviously we've got a history of being sales agents together at McGrath, and you've sort of come off the back end of your Titans career. But, like, just give the listeners insight into when you were sort of playing footy, but then also probably like what I've touched on, a couple of injuries, when that thought started, when your mind started turning to about, well, what else is out there? When did that happen, and how did that feel?
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny story. I've shared this story on a few other podcasts I've been on, but cut a long story short, obviously I was playing NRL and it was a dream of mine, and then was always interested in property, always chatting to the older guys. I first come into first grade training at pretty much 19, and then I was just sort of working part-time and doing that until I got a full-time gig, and then played some good footy, then got a full-time contract and said to my old job, see you later. Straight out, I'm out. And then become a professional athlete. And then, as I was playing, obviously it's a fun industry. You know, you're playing footy, right? It's tough. You're training every day, but obviously you're earning a bit more than most 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds. So luckily for me, I had some good influence from family just in terms of money habits, both being immigrants and being quite tight with their money. So it sort of had some good habits for me. And then obviously growing up in Western Brisbane, you know, humble beginnings and whatnot, I was never really into the flashy things and whatnot. So it was good when I was going through that transition phase. I could lean on my parents, but also a few guys. And I came in the Titan system when it was going through that transition of all the old guys, your day ones, you know, your Preston Campbells and Scott Prince, Luke Bailey. And it was pretty much me, Ryan James, and Jordan Rankin. We were pretty much the only kids in the team. So it was really good. We had all these like older guys who were 10 years, 15 years ahead senior. So it was good to have that influence, what they were doing with their funds and whatnot. Got into property, started getting injured. Was sitting in a waiting room in Burleigh, waiting for an x-ray. And there was a property investment magazine on the desk. And I read that. I didn't have my phone on me, and that was sort of the weird, because no one in my family has been in property or anything. They'll very much just buy one property and, you know, pay it off, kind of never invested into anything.
So was that a light bulb moment?
It really was, yeah.
Like a sliding doors, like bang.
It was the weirdest thing ever. I still remember it, reading the magazine in Burleigh. And, I just I was like, wow, like you can sort of buy a property and invest in it. You know, you don't have to live in it. And
so how old were you then?
About 21.
21 then?
21, yeah.
And then how quickly from that point did you start thinking about, well, what have I got to do to go and buy my first place? Yeah,
it started getting, as you know, mate, you got a bit of free time as a athlete, right? So do your training, and then I got really into YouTube and magazines and all that sort of stuff. Went to every seminar you could think of. You know, if I wasn't playing on the weekend, I'd spend the weekend at a property seminar learning. And then sort of got my first place at 23. I was, and then then first investment property. A few months later, then I started just keep going, and I loved it. I just loved it ever since. And then obviously 26, ended up retiring early through injury. And then unfortunately I had to make the call to retire, but literally moved straight into real estate. I was like, this seems like a cool industry. I might as well do it full time now. So, it's a bit of a bit of an odd one, and I guess that's where we cross paths, right? I sort of got into. I heard you were in sales, and actually, I remember calling you. I think, yeah, just asking you how the industry is and whatnot. Yeah,
I remember we went and had a coffee at Barefoot Barista.
That's right. Yeah.
Said, "What's it like?" And
that's right.
And I said, "Mate, come and get involved."
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was really good. And you've obviously detoured a little bit since then, but which we'll talk about. But how important do you think for the listeners to have someone, either like a mentor or someone to look up to get them started? Like, as you said, your parents at the time didn't really think about investing. It was buy a property to live in, and you probably have one. But if you're a 19, 20, 21-year-old sitting out there that they've got similar style parents, how important is it for them to go and pick up a magazine or to watch a YouTube thing or to go to a seminar? And because it's basically can be a turning point in someone's life, right?
Huge. And I really feel I'm learning a lot more around reaching out to mentors or people who are in positions where you want to be, right? And I'll tell you one thing around the world now and social media, it's really easy to get in touch with people. And I always believe in the mantra, if you don't ask, you don't know, right?
Yep.
So anytime I want to delve into an area of life, I'll just reach out to someone who's far ahead of where I want to be and learn off them, right?
Yep.
And I got mentors in my business and the health and all those sorts of things now. So it's I really believe, I guess the first thing is motivation and inspiration. And then once you tap into that, it's like, okay, how can I get to where I need to be? Is there anyone in that area already that I can learn off and I guess learn from their mistakes as well? That's going to fast track it, I think. What about yourself? You've sort of come through the path where, I know your background. You've dived into all different facets of the industry, right? And I guess each one, and that's another thing we always chat around, right? It's life is always going to open up opportunities. Sometimes you go through it and you learn, right?
Oh, mate, big time. And that's, for me, like, if I didn't have the influence of my father, like, I wouldn't have got started in the industry. But also, which I'll probably touch on, like, I signed a pretty good contract as a 16, 17-year-old to sign with Parramatta for like 4 years. And I was playing local A-grade footy, and Dad said, right, mate, we're doing something with this money, you know? And again, I'm not silly. Like, I understand I had a great opportunity, so I probably started ahead of where others can start. But mate, by the time I was 20, like, I had 4 properties. I've probably never told too many people that story, which I'm sort of happy to share. But without Dad, like, I don't buy one. You know what I mean? So
the influence,
yeah, and I'm really passionate about, like, helping young people now. If anyone sort of young comes to me and says, well, how did you get started or whatever, I'll say, well, look, I had a bit of a leg up because I had some ability in rugby league. But irrespective of that, it's all relative, right? You can still start with a certain amount and leverage it and go, and learning about things like finance. So, yeah, mate, to answer your question, look, I've done a lot of different things in the property game, and that's really at times been through luck and or by choice, because I'm so I do get bored of things, I'll be honest, but I'm also really passionate about a few different things. So, like, I'm really passionate, as you know, about the investment side and seeing people grow their wealth and showing them how they can turn one property into 2, into 4, you know, and really setting themselves up for life. And been fortunate enough to do that with a few guys that sort of come through just after me through the NRL, that they sort of put their faith in me on a number of things, which was good. But from the point of view of now, mate, like, it's been really enjoyable, obviously, the work you and I do together with the podcast and a few other sort of different business type things. And really this was born, this is your brainchild, the Property Prequel, around, you know, helping buyers to make sure that they don't make the mistakes that others have. And I guess I wanted to ask you, Shrams, was it's good to have those good mentors around, but you've also got to be really careful of who's your mentor and who's your perceived mentor and whose advice you can take. Because I know, like, over the time you've had some people that have probably tried to give you advice that probably didn't suit what you wanted, but it was more geared towards their own vested interest. And you and I both know there's a lot of that goes on, right? So tell me about your experiences with that. Obviously, we won't talk about who it is or what it is, and how you actually work through that, given the fact that, as you said, your parents weren't the greatest mentors in the way of the property side. Great parents, of course. How did you work through that, mate? Because that can be challenging.
One thing around the industry itself, I think, with real estate is there's a lot of experts, right? The thing to identify within this industry is what's in your best interest versus what's in their best interest. And I feel for whatever reason, the real estate sector has got a lot of perceived experts where it can be probably not your best interest at heart, because it is an industry where, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of money you can make in it as well.
Yep.
So it's that's why you hear me and you both have shared some hectic stories behind closed doors around what we've seen and heard. So
Crazy.
it's crazy. So probably the biggest thing to understand in this industry is you always got to be educated. I feel there's always people to lean on and gain support from. And mate, as I said, I've been to nearly every seminar and thing under the sun. Some of them would not go further with or engage with the but I always take what I need and then I'll educate myself. So that's probably the biggest thing is, yes, lean on the right people within this industry. But I feel in this industry, if you want to get into the property world, you have to be educated yourself to some degree.
Yep.
You need to understand the fundamentals yourself. I don't think it's an industry where you can just pay someone and do everything for you. And even my clients that I work with, we're dealing with big clients, big money. I still need them on a base level where they understand what's going on.
Yep. So that you can say to them, this is our thoughts, this is our professional advice. However, don't take my word for it. I want you to verify it for yourself. It takes a bit of onus off you, right?
100%. You've always got to be careful of advising and different things like that, with especially in the financial space. It's all around giving feedback and opinions and help and guidance.
Yep.
Rather than, hey, you should do this.
So what if someone's listening now, a young person that says, what Matt's saying there, that makes a whole heap of sense. I listen, I follow Matt Srama on Instagram or whatever, and I see things. But have you got any other ideas or pointers, tips where they could go to self-educate? Like, I know YouTube's obviously one, but is there any people or anyone that you follow or any ideas where people could go as a really good starting point?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is a really good one. I like YouTube. I like books as well. I think a really basic one, I've always given this tip to people, like a basic book, something like Rich Dad, Poor Dad's a really good one. I mean, when I read that, it was it's nothing to do with property really. It's just more the mindset of making money work for you and the old OPM, other people's money, and understanding that. I think that's a really good, because once you understand the fundamentals around I guess money habits, money in general, then you can start to go, okay, now I can put the money to work. Because what I find is too many people fast track into, I want to buy property, I want to invest in shares and Bitcoin, whatever, but they don't have the right money habits to start with. I think with anything in life, it's like a foundation, right? You want to be a great athlete or whatever, you need to put the habits in with your eating and training first. Like you can't get to there without doing the foundations first. So I think that's a big one. Me and you always talk around is the habits and what it's like at home, and sometimes reflecting on what was the money habits when you were growing up. You know, that's
so
always
true.
That's a big one. Is what were the habits with you as a child growing up, and are you carrying any of those habits with you now that are, I guess, roadblocking you moving forward? Huge one.
There's a lot of that, isn't there? There's a lot of roadblocks, and you sit down with people and start to untangle it, and it actually starts to make sense once you talk and untangle. Don't you reckon?
Huge, and that's why I believe like a foundation thing. It's like upstairs. What's the psychology in the brain of where you're at mindset wise before anything, right? We want to invest in you want to make X amount, or you want to buy X amount of properties, but your mindset probably is in the right space, which will lead to your habits, right? So me and you are so big on getting all the foundations first before diving in. So answer your question, that's probably a good place to start, is get the foundations first, especially if you're a younger demographic.
Yep.
Property, as you know, it's a long game.
It's a long game. You can make short-term money in property during different cycles sometimes, but generally you got to play the long game, and it's expensive in and it's expensive out property. So, Shrums, I wanted to ask you now, you're fairly new into your business, new in the sense of how long you've got to go. There'd be a lot of people out there that listen or watch our podcast, probably with a fair bit of I suppose, admiration and probably thinking, well, geez, how do I do that? Whether it's a buyer's agent business or whatever. Mate, just for the listeners, because we've probably never touched on it, how has it been for you as an individual, like learning from setting up a business to basically understanding the property game, because you do, but never having your own business before? How's the journey been to where we are sitting here, right here today, from where you started, some of the challenges, and any advice for anyone that's thinking about sort of starting their own business, irrespective of what industry?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing is it is a journey, and there's going to be huge ups, huge downs. Probably my biggest tip I can give is be centered. That's probably the biggest thing. Is I heard this one the other day that I really liked around business, and it was around, you know, when people say, "Oh, my business is my baby," and you know what I mean, and you're emotionally invested, which you are. You created something from scratch, right? And you're earning an income from the impact you're providing. Like, it's awesome. But then it's like I really resonated with it, because he was sort of saying in this video I watched, it was like when people say your business is my baby, no, your baby's, that's your family at home.
They're at home.
They're at home.
Yeah.
Your business is an asset that you've built to be able to provide for whatever it is, maybe your family or whatever goals you have. It's should be seen as business. Business is business. People will backstab you. People will go behind your back. It can be cutthroat at times. But at the end of the day, your family's at home. They're what's important. You've got all these other things at home. Your business is an asset you've started, and it's transactional as well. Yeah, you can provide a lot of impact to the world, but at the end of the day, plenty of ups and downs. Don't get too emotionally invested, because that's business, baby. Yeah. It's what it is, right?
100%. And one thing that Dowk said on the episode a few weeks ago was around, you know, it's important to celebrate the wins and whatever, but by the same token, you just, as you said, stay fairly centered. So don't get too emotional when things are going berserk and really, really good. But by the same token, don't get too emotional.
Don't get too down in the dumps,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I've noticed that with yourself, mate, observing from the outside in, like you're very much, you operate in that way. How important do you think that is for people listening who are new to business?
Oh, it's huge. I think that's why everything starts with yourself, mindset. What are you doing daily habit-wise to keep your mind in check? Because I'll tell you what, if you want to get into business, especially in this industry, there's going to be plenty of fires that are going to come at you out of the blue. Every day is different, whatnot. It's the exciting part of it, right?
Yep.
But also in saying that, it's not made for everyone. You got to have a good thick skin about it and understand that's process. And probably the biggest takeaway I've got recently now, the more we're scaling, is process, not outcome.
Right. That's gold.
Yeah. So you always have an outcome. I see it as like I've been learning a lot about it, is you have a North Star and where you want to go. Don't focus too much on the outcome. Focus more on that process to get there and tick that off every day. And then for that process, are you ticking the boxes? Because a lot of things, right, you can't control. It doesn't matter. We can always control. This is what I say to my team. We can always control the process.
Yep.
Always.
Yep.
It's in our hands. If we tick all the boxes for that, whatever the outcome happens, the outcome comes. Did we give ourselves every opportunity to reach an outcome? If yes, well then, it is what it is. Whatever happens, that's business.
To use a rugby league or sporting analogy, because we love them.
Hit me.
It's basically, stick to your structures, stick to your processes, and the scoreline will take care of itself.
100%.
And that's what, as you know, mate, I do a lot of rugby league coaching, and that's one thing, playing that long game, and don't worry about the outcome, which is the scoreline in that analogy, but it's so important. But I think too many people want to stop at half time and know what the score is and compare the scoreline to another game that's going on around the corner.
Yeah.
I think particularly on the Gold Coast, that's quite big.
Yeah, that's a good one actually, Crossy, around the comparison theory as well. It's a big one on the journey of property and buying property and stuff. It's stay in your own lane, and I'm guilty of it. Everyone's guilty of it. Sometimes you get caught up. Oh, he's got X amount of properties. Why don't I have X amount of properties? But everyone stay in your own lane, right? It's
that's it.
What is Tommy Panos? You can't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Love it. Yeah. That's good. Just quickly, mate, as we probably wrap up, what's next for Matthew Srama? Obviously, we're moving to bigger and better studios. We're just growing. We're just getting too big. But, mate, your business has obviously taken off the last couple of years. You've recently put someone else on. Is there plans for more people? How are you navigating your way through the current market, given with the headwinds that we do have? And does that hinder any sort of recruiting plans that you do have?
Yeah, good question. I guess moving forward, the buyer's agency business, it's been stronger than ever. And we've got a solid team now and crossing a lot of boards as well, just creating the whole buying experience a lot better. So it's a full designated team for buying property, and I've outlined which, I guess, footy again, which positions we need, right? So I feel we're at a position now where we've nearly ticked every single box. So everyone's playing to their strengths within the team.
Yep.
So, definitely the business going to keep going. We're in just got another person, plus we're recruiting a few more buyers agents to try and really take a good hold of the Gold Coast and add value as much as we can. And then in the personal life, always looking at opportunities. I think the next 12 to 18 months is so exciting to be a buyer. So exciting. I'm not just talking where I live, but I'm talking Australia-wide. There's plenty of different markets at all different price points. Yep. And I feel this interest rate environment has tapped out a lot of window shoppers, and it's time to gear up I think there'll be some pain on the street at the end of this year, even into next year. And what I mean by that is I know some parts of Australia highly leveraged with, prices stagnate as well. Yes. So what that does is it causes some people to be under what's called like financial stress. Yep. You looked at a stat, it's quite a solid % that they think are going to be under financial stress. Yes. So I feel if you're a buyer out there, as fortunate as it sounds, that's when you need to gear up and take its opportunity. Well, I sniff opportunities, right? So
big time.
I think that's exciting for the future, and covering all that, mate. Still traveling and doing what I can. The planes are back open, so you got to balance life as well. So really excited for the rest of the year and the property prequel as well. I'm all in on this, and it's exciting what we've been able to create, mate. So it's awesome. And what about, I guess, yourself leading into the back end of the year?
Yeah, it's going to be busy, mate. Busy life, as you know, with me, with
a lot going on.
Playing sport and coaching, and do some radio commentary for rugby league as well, as you know, and property stuff and property prequel. So it's busy, but what do they say? You make your bed, you got to lay in it. So that's what I'm doing, mate. So I don't know. If the wife's happy, then I'm happy, mate.
That's it.
Yeah, and you know my wife, mate. So
and she's a very happy woman.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, and it just a little preview into the next 6 months. So a few new guests, brand new studio. We're going to take it up a notch as well in terms of episodes. We've been getting people wanting some more, so we're going to dive into that. The guys, shout out to the guys at Social Lab who have been great in terms of the podcast and also a lot of the marketing stuff I do as well. Yep. Stepping that up. So, it's been an amazing journey with them as well. And, shout out to the boys. So
they're on the climb too, the boys.
Aren't they what?
Jeez,
shout out to the crew. It's glad they're coming on the ride. It's like we're all strapped in together.
Talk about a trajectory. Jeez, they're up, onwards and upwards, these blokes.
I think it's ever since they linked up with the boys,
I
right?
think so.
What they say, you sign in, it's the Melbourne Storm theory, right?
Yeah.
You come on.
Grant and Munster sitting there.
That's it.
Anyway, that's enough garbage.
Oh, that's it. All right. So, it's going to be a cool coming 6 months. As you said at the start, Crossy, just want to acknowledge and thank everyone for listening. It's been an exciting journey. Still obviously very fresh, but awesome times coming as well. So last ep in this studio, it's been great, and can't wait for the next step in the brand new dungeon.
Are we going to have a TV with our ugly mugs on there as well again? Or
I'm hoping that.
Can we get something else?
Can we?
Maybe mine. Yours is okay.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
We'll see how we go. Awesome. Thanks, Crossy. Well, mate, have a good week, and I'll see you at the new studio.
See you there. See you, mate.